The Predatory Female, A Field Guide to Dating and the Marriage Divorce Industry, by SHANNON. Introduction. Predatory 1. Of, pertaining to, or characterized by plundering, pillaging, or marauding. 2. Preying on other animals, predaceous. 3. By a tendency to victimize or destroy others for one's own benefit. She was a spring bride, a graceful beauty radiating health and happiness. The garden wedding overlooked the blue Pacific on a lovely day. The groom, young and handsome, smiled lovingly as they repeated their vows. Truly they were a storybook couple with a charming future. 15 months later, the bride's attorney was demanding alimony, community property, attorney's fees, court costs, child custody, child support, and more. The groom's attorney responded, setting off a bitter divorce lasting longer than the marriage. What happened? Could their relationship, like thousands every year, have been founded upon a misunderstanding? More people are answering yes to that question as it becomes increasingly evident that we are wading in the pathos of marital disaster in this country. Let's face it, you can't even buy a bag of groceries today without getting a short course in divorce from the tabloids at the checkout counter. But what primary misconception can be blamed for the growing war zone between the sexes? It is the quiet, eye-stirring, and popular ignorance of the predatory female. Her perfidious nature has persistently escaped proper scrutiny and exposure throughout most of this century. The predatory female, obfuscated by society and custom, is misunderstood by females and males alike. It is this lack of awareness that eventually leads most couples to the brink of catastrophe. Look at a typical day's headlines: man shoots wife, then self. Lovers quarrel, ends in death. Girlfriends used for alimony. Infant abandoned at drive-in. Shooting ends love triangle. Divorce erupts in violence. Distraught father steals own child. A working knowledge of the predatory female can greatly aid everyone in avoiding these terrible, but common events. We live in a matriarchal society. Most of our citizens are females. Can we afford to remain blinded to an inherent trait of most of our citizens? A study of the predatory female is long overdue. We must learn to recognize and deal with her. These pages can help their readers avoid the misery and self-destruction inflicted daily upon the victims of the predatory female. There is no other book like this in the world. Similar works have been censored and destroyed. The unspoken and chilling menace that emanates from the predatory females of our society has, until now, kept the facts herein concealed. In the following chapters, the true predatory female is publicly unveiled for the first time. You will learn to recognize and avoid her traps. You will explore all phases of dealing with predatory females, from casual acquaintances to post-divorce relations. After reviewing the characteristics of predatory females in Section I, you will be ready for the survival guides in Section 2. These will help protect you from the ever-present dangers in a society that is crawling with predatory females. Hopefully, if you comprehend and retain the contents of these sections, you will be saved from the matriarchal sludge pile, from eventually becoming an embittered, cynical old grab bag who's had a short coursey human pinata wearing 50 pounds of body jewelry, a velour jumpsuit, and driving around Marina del Key with personalized plates that say Stud 1. You may even be rescued from that pathetic mob of hungry, searching males who, strutting and preening, descend nightly upon the profusion of singles bars, swinging their scrotums like Argentine ballers. But be warned. Those with fairy tale ideas of courtship and marriage may find these pages upsetting. Being no less candid than a process server, the author relies on naked frankness. Consequently, this material doesn't cater to the faint-hearted. It's for people desiring the truth about their circumstances, who prefer reality to fiction, and who base their decisions on facts rather than dreams. There are many publications designed to help people attract the opposite sex, set up housekeeping with their lovers, prepare for marriage, or rebuild their lives after divorce. These books deal with the results of mistakes. The predatory female teaches how to avoid such mistakes in the first place. Some people are uncomfortable with reality and may initially reject the message herein, preferring to perpetuate the myths and fantasies concealing predatory females. The smoke screen, in place for thousands of years, is not forecast to end here, so the only hope for these untutored lambs may be that Reverend Shannon's words get to them before a predatory female does. Fortunately for those who would guard their lives, property, and sanity against dangerous temporary euphorias, there is the still small voice of reason. You are about to hear that voice. Read, enjoy, laugh, but most of all, remember. I beheld the wretched miserable monster whom I had created. Mary Shelley. Every dog has his day, but the night belongs to us. A predatory female section. Section 1 – Traits of the predatory female. Initial considerations. Everything that deceives may be said to enchant. Plato. Q. Can the predatory female be identified in our society? A. Fortunately, yes. Although it's impossible to categorize all behavior in a segment of population, there are discernible traits in the predatory female that, once learned, may serve as warning signals to the enlightened. Q. Who benefits by learning these traits? A. Everyone, but males have the edge in the present legal climate. Q. Why? A. Men, poorly educated about predatory females, are notoriously clumsy when dealing with them. Our earliest history bristles with examples of strong, intelligent men outwitted and destroyed by females in the predatory mode. This continues presently where women, victims of their own predatory natures and aided by the court system, are responsible for the ruin of families, businesses, and lives all over the nation. Q. Are you blaming women exclusively for these disasters? A. No. Little of the mayhem could occur without the endless army of men, untutored in the predatory female, queuing up obediently for destruction. Blinded by steam from their own grenades, they stumble ignorantly into relationships with women and later awaken to find themselves trapped in an ever-deepening pit of emotional, legal, and financial quicksand. Me, myself, and I? Q. How do we begin to identify a predatory female? A. One giveaway is that she flatly represents the self-centered faction of the population. While a male gravitates towards things and activities, a predatory female is primarily concerned with herself. Since the publishing industry is extremely sensitive to readers' interests, a glance at any newsstand will help explain. Publications designed for men bear titles like sports, flying, electronics, mechanics, etc., while those sold mainly to females are called self, glamour, image, me, woman, and so forth. The predatory female is concerned chiefly with herself and what others think of her. This is a basic rule. A picture of a cat, spending hours looking at self, comes to mind. Unhampered by ego. Q. Are you saying the predatory female is an egomaniac? A. Not at all. The predatory female rarely exhibits an ego the way males do. Her ego has given way to convenience and practicality. Moreover, she is quietly amazed at the excessiveness of the male ego. Unhampered by ego, she is quicker and more adroit than the male. It is curious how the female will sometimes berate the male about his ego when that very weakness often enables her to control him. Again, the predatory female is not ultimately concerned with what men think of her, only what women think. Keep in mind the old sayings that a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, and women undress for men but dress for women. Helter-skelter. Q beyond herself and her status with other women, does anything else pique her interest? Yes, any combination of money, romance, and excitement. The scent of these accommodations will have her rising like a cobra from a wicker basket. The provider of such diversions occupies center stage in her life, but his identity is unimportant to her, and it's a temporary position. Nobody can amuse her forever. All Pied Pipers eventually fade into the past. What about love? Q, you haven't mentioned love as an interest of the predatory female. Why? A, the predatory female never loves a man. She only loves the love. This is a basic rule. The adversary. Q, who is the adversary? A, this is a role automatically adopted by the predatory female whenever she is with a man. She loves to constantly prod him and fence with him. If he fails to respond acceptably, she deems him unromantic and dull. His services will soon be terminated. The adversary phenomenon is closely related to the defense of the nest, discussed later. Will the real predatory female please stand up? Q, how else might one recognize a predatory female? A, the predatory nature resides in almost every woman, but is not always visible. It isn't constantly at the surface of their personalities, producing elongated eye teeth. You may deal with a woman for some time without seeing any predatory signs. But if you're patient, and take time to study the female in question, you'll eventually see the predatory nature emerge. At times, even for the seasoned observer, this can be an unnerving experience. Q, Reverend Shannon, do you use the words female, predatory female, and woman interchangeably? A, in this book, yes. Q, why? A, because it most closely approximates the real world. The acquisitive mode. Q, what is the acquisitive mode? A, it is the yawn of the predatory nature, a primal stirring. It may rise slowly to the surface, see a monster from the lagoon, or it might blindside you like a bear charging out of the broom closet. The mode can be triggered by many things. She suddenly wants to get married. She is bored. Her best friend got married. She doesn't like her job. She wants to move into better housing. She just turned 30. Her sister got engaged, or a host of other reasons. Her invisible electronic gun sight begins sweeping the range, scanning to acquire a target. Q, how can you be sure a woman is in the acquisitive mode? A, she shows interest in men. This is a positive identification. The primal woman. Q, are the young women of America a collection of scheming mercenaries? A, hardly. The majority are only doing what comes naturally and what they've been taught by their mothers. That is to manipulate the multitudes of hapless men who continue to rush eagerly into servitude as they have for thousands of years. Usually her scheming is minimal, and indeed, when she behaves naturally, when she relies wholly upon her primordial instincts, she is most effective. The primal woman is so beguiling and disarming that she is infinitely dangerous. The supernatural. Q, why do you equate associating with the predatory female to dabbling in the black arts? It is one of mankind's strongest historical parallels. In the Garden of Eden, it was Eve who had the rapport with the serpent. The witch at Ender was a woman. Ancient literature, like Homer, expresses the supernatural leanings of females. Nothing has changed. For example, a modern predatory female has the uncanny ability to track you, in person or by phone, to the remotest parts of the earth. When you begin to fraternize with a woman, you are taking the first steps in a ritual mating dance that, if allowed to progress, will result in your moving about the floor in a semi-comatose state until you are fleeced of your money, property, and peace of mind. A predatory female will study you. She learns to know what you are thinking. She begins the strongest primeval death grip known to mankind. Can reading this book cause problems with a current lover? Reading and comprehending the predatory female results in knowing too much, by the standards of a predatory female. Unless you are able to conceal your knowledge, she will discover you and recoil like a vampire from a crucifix. The real lesson in the garden. What is the real lesson in the garden? Adam and Eve were instructed not to eat the fruit of the tree. The devil evidently studied both humans to find which would be easiest to tempt, the least stable. Consequently, Eve was tricked into eating the fruit. But remember, Eve was tricked, Adam was not. The real lesson is that Adam, seeing the banishment of Eve, purposely gobbled the fruit because he couldn't stand to be without her. Rather than be left alone, he skulked to the tree and, with both eyes wide open, munched his way to damnation. History's first grovel. Adam groveled to avert loneliness. Even today, thousands of men are flushing their lives and fortunes, usually into the marriage mill, to avoid being left by, or without, a woman. The chameleon syndrome. What is the chameleon syndrome? A quasi-supernatural transformation. The chameleon syndrome is the predatory female's unholy ability to become whatever the script calls for in hooking a man. She will adopt his viewpoints, his attitudes, his hobbies, and his dislikes. Her personality will change to suit his. She will enroll in classes, become a gourmet cook, stop smoking, switch religions, accept his friends, humor his jealousies, develop a relationship with his relatives, or whatever else is called for. She will change colors into rocks like a chameleon. Of all the traits exhibited by predatory females, this chameleon syndrome is one of the most lethal. Why? Because, amazingly, the predatory female is completely sincere about her new behavior. She isn't consciously aware of any deception. She transforms involuntarily. She could take a lie detector test and pass. There is nothing crooked in her mind. Consequently, the male detects nothing amiss, because there is nothing amiss. Everything is normal and natural. The predatory female has matched herself with the surrounding landscape. She adapted to her environment. For mating and survival, the male innocently concludes he has met the right woman. At the stroke of midnight. How long does the chameleon syndrome last? As long as it takes to subdue the male, which usually means the bonds of holy matrimony and the enforcement powers of the judicial system. Then what happens? The adaptation is no longer necessary, the spell is broken, and the colors begin changing back to original. We've grown apart, is the familiar statement. Our values have changed. In truth, the chameleon has simply relaxed to its natural, more comfortable exterior. You say, more comfortable exterior. Are you implying the predatory female is uncomfortable in the adapted colors? Although unaware of it, she is often ill at ease. Most people have seen an acquisitive woman working hard to bring a man to the altar. She may lose weight, become nervous and fidgety, cry a lot, or develop insomnia. These are signs of a chameleon chafing in her temporary exterior and compose more trademarks of a predatory female. Disguises. Do predatory females physically disguise themselves? Yes. The predatory female habitually employs subterfuge. Each morning across America, millions of females don disguises. They use makeup, wigs, face paint, phony eyebrows, false eyelashes, eyeshadow, lipstick, false fingernails, hair color, corsets, sprays, and other camouflage. Women's clothing designers often refer to the illusion they are creating. Occasionally these females improve their appearance, but the fact remains they are hiding something. They are fooling somebody. The practice is so commonplace that few see it for what it is: deception. All women, whatever age, rank, profession or degree, whether virgins, maids or widows, that shall impose upon, seduce or betray into matrimony any of His Majesty's subjects, by scents, paints, cosmetics, washes, artificial teeth, false hair, iron stave hoops, high-heeled shoes, bolstered hips, or padded bosoms, shall incur the penalty of the law. Enforced against witchcraft, unlike misdemeanors, and, upon conviction, that marriage shall stand null and void. Act of British Parliament 1770. Q. Besides outright deception, are there other negative aspects to these disguises? A. Not only are regiments of men conditioned to subsidize these female diversionary tactics, but heavy users of the cosmetic disguises are simply unclean. They leave streaks of makeup and lipstick on clothes and bed sheets. They often improperly mix the various substances, creating a noxious odor, and some individuals host a form of microscopic mite in their eyelids. Amusingly, for all their trouble, a large percentage of these females succeed only in adding a Halloween aspect to their appearance. Q. Are there other forms of disguises? A. Yes, in the sense that a predatory female is adept at disguising her intentions. This is more fully discussed later, but here's an example that gives a good insight into the female thinking process. Recently, a TV crew interviewed customers of a new co-ed health spa in Dallas. The place was packed with nubile, available ladies and gentlemen, all dancing, stretching, pumping iron, and swimming to the beat of rock music. In response to questions, several young ladies said, "There's a lot of cute guys here, and when we go out with them we don't feel like we've been picked up. It's not like a singles bar. It's a more comfortable, easy way to meet people." In other words, the ladies were more comfortable when their amicabilities weren't as obvious, when their intentions toward the opposite sex were couched in a deceiving framework or disguised. The pack. Q. Do predatory females run in packs? A. Yes, most predatory creatures do. Sharks and hyenas are good examples. Predatory females are comfortable in packs. Have you ever seen a woman excuse herself from a group to go to the bathroom, only to be followed by the other women? This is packing. They like to gossip and scheme out of earshot. Predatory females rely heavily on the consensus of the pack, and thereby encounter difficulty in making individual decisions. The pack includes their mothers and girlfriends, and constitutes the sole governing body in the life of a predatory female. The blessing or cursing of the pack, a committee decision, is largely determinate in the rise and fall of lovers, husbands, and gynecologists. Man comes from the womb and spends the rest of his life trying to get back there. George Bernard Shaw. The matriarchal system. Q. What is the matriarchal system? A. Like open range to a wolf, it is the operating medium of the predatory female. It is the unspoken mass thought process that supports her activities. Through the incontestable voting power of superior numbers of women, it controls politics, the media, and the church. Firmly entrenched, the matriarchal system is apple pie, motherhood, and the marriage-divorce industry. Nearly every citizen, like it or not, nourishes it. With the supporting cast of thousands including lawyers, doctors, clergy, and politicians, its influence reaches all phases of American life as it forever perpetuates the power of the predatory female. But even with the overwhelming voting power of females and their subsequent control of governmental functions, the matriarchal system could never operate efficiently without the hordes of male drones it has created. These men, preconditioned by their mothers and suffering from a self-imposed order of chivalry, consistently front for the system and its predatory female masters. Q. An example. The male-dominated Supreme Court recently refused to allow the conscription of women into the armed services. The courts, fronted by male drones, are overjoyed at the prospect of helping a predatory female collect her alimony. But when it comes to the dirty work of protecting the very system fostering this alimony, they turn to the vast reserve of perpetual victims that befuddled males. How could this system ever get started? Prior to the turn of the century, the foundation was already in place with the popular pastime of glorifying and deifying the female. But shortly after 1900, when women were emancipated by a quaking and groveling male population, the female bloc took a subtle and permanent stranglehold on the legal process. Historically, a strong matriarchal system is always present in a morally declining society. Moreover, the higher standard of living a nation enjoys, the more likely it is to have an entrenched matriarchal system. If that's true, why did the Equal Rights Amendment fail? We may have a case of overkill here, so the female masters of the system have disagreed on the issue. 2/3 of the state legislatures haven't ratified it, creating a wave of additional propaganda, but enough laws are already on the books to ensure equal rights. Bag check. Is shoplifting a habit of the predatory female? The stealing of items from stores, restaurants, hotels, and places of employment is considered acceptable behavior by predatory females. This habit also extends to your home. Indeed, the unmasked predatory female is practically immoral and she doesn't improve with age. Therefore, a woman who is perfectly truthful and not given to dissimulation is perhaps an impossibility, and for this very reason they are so quick at seeing through dissimulation in others that it is not a wise thing to attempt it with them. But this fundamental defect which I have stated, with all that it entails, gives rise to falsity, faithlessness, treachery, ingratitude, and so on. Perjury in a court of justice is more often committed by women than by men. It may, indeed, be generally questioned whether women ought to be sworn at all. From time to time one finds repeated cases everywhere of ladies who want for nothing, taking things from shop counters when no one is looking, and making off with them. Arthur Schopenhauer, 1788-18. Soaps. How are predatory females and soap operas associated? TV soap operas are particularly attractive to predatory females. Their lifestyles reflect an almost unconscious imitation of soap opera scenarios. A predatory female enjoys cultivating scandalous events and involving herself in everyone's problems. A group of predatory females will even talk like soap opera players, whispering in conspiratorial tones and using exaggerated voice inflections. The alert observer can identify this predatory sign in almost any gathering of females. Ding. What is a ding? Listening for dings is a good way to spot predatory females because they are a universal trait of the creature. Unfortunately, a man usually listens to very little of what a woman says. With other matters on his mind, like sex, he doesn't carefully consider her words. This is a mistake. On a date, though he is primarily occupied by pulling money from his wallet, he should train himself to listen carefully. Eventually she will say something that doesn't make any sense. This is a ding. He may have to listen for several hours, but it's worth it. Sooner or later, if she is a predatory female, she'll make a statement that doesn't jibe. If you happen to be the listener, mentally register a ding. As your skill improves, and with more exposure, you may be hearing dings constantly. After you've heard a few, they become easier to identify. A ding alerts you to being in the presence of a predatory female. The volcano. Are irrational acts a trait of the predatory female? Yes. She is capable of sudden, illogical, and self-destructive acts at any moment. She is totally unpredictable. Q. Why is this? A. Examine her cervix. It is symbolic with the appearance of a miniature, upside-down volcano. It is the capstone of an area spawning violent chemical and hormonal eruptions. It seems incredulous that anyone subjected to these biological explosions could escape an unstable personality. It is no wonder that predatory females are often at a loss to explain their actions. Q. Do these facts make it difficult for a predatory female to function in society? A. Not at all. First, we live in a matriarchal society, totally hospitable to these vagaries, and second, she is attractive, beguiling, and adaptable. Also, legions of male sons of the matriarchy festoon the countryside, catering to her every whim. The media. Q. How does the media fit into a study of the predatory female? A. The mass media is an important prop looking 10 or more years in the future, the viewing of which is shocking. The blimp syndrome. Q. What is the blimp syndrome? A. Another trait of the predatory female. It describes her startling ability to gain or lose weight rapidly. She may become unrecognizable in short periods of time. Q. What determines whether they gain or lose? A. Predatory female in the acquisitive mode will usually be at her thinnest. They take on a lean, hungry look. Once they've run their prey to the ground, and or become non-acquisitive, they tend to gain weight, to lose the fighting trim. The invisible man. Q. Who is the invisible man? A. Any man the predatory female has deemed to be of no further use. Although she'll go to extremes pleasing and cultivating a man when she's in the acquisitive mode, she views him as untouchable once his purpose is served. He totally ceases to exist in every way. He becomes a non-person and is fair game for the carrion birds of society. Q. How can the male fall so low in her esteem? A. He never achieved any other status. He is commonly misled through his failure to grasp the predatory nature of the female. He may have been a victim of the chameleon syndrome. Indeed, one of the biggest stumbling blocks for men, especially those reared by women, is the understanding that no woman will ever love them, particularly in the manner they desire. Q. Why do you say that? A woman's love is like a hand-powered grinding wheel. If you pump furiously and wind it up, she will do the job, make noise, even throw off sparks. She will respond, but only respond. The minute you release the handle, she begins winding down. She could only respond in a temporary manner. That's why an adult female will rarely call you or initiate anything. They are only constructed to respond. Q. And the invisible man? A. He is not allowed to crank the handle. Once the charade is over, and that day comes for every man, the female has no feeling, no remorse, no conscience, and no empathy for the discarded male. He becomes the invisible man. Mutual exclusion. Q. What is the rule of mutual exclusion? A. One of the few safeguards nature has provided for those dealing with predatory females. The rule states the more you like her, the less she'll like you, and vice versa. Although often unappreciated, nature is trying to warn those who see this rule in action. The more interest you show in a female, the less interesting you are to her. Conversely, a commitment to one will kindle the interest of others. This is because, like in the Garden of Eden, the female always wants what is denied her. Natural talent. Q. Do you see the predatory female as an actress? A. When the circumstances dictate, a predatory female is capable of astounding theatrics. She can cry at will, appear emotionally devastated, throw temper tantrums, laugh, smile, charm the onlookers, rise up indignantly, take you into her confidence, become seductive, turn icy, or assume any role she deems appropriate. The talent comes involuntarily with the chameleon syndrome, but is always at her disposal. No free lunch. Q. Are there any freebies at all with a predatory female? A. Virtually none. A primary trait of the predatory female is that she deprives you of your peace of mind in direct proportion to the amount of time you spend with her. It is a natural sapping process from which there is no escape. Starting with your mind, it soon extends to your money and possessions. It's heads she wins, tails you lose. Never suppress the tingling uneasiness that accompanies the dealing with females. Nature is saying that you are the little woodchuck succumbing to the hypnotic majesty of the weaving cobra. Doctor. Q. What is the doctor's role in the life of the predatory female? A. Doctors are a big part of the predatory female's security. Consequently, predatory females are very doctor-oriented and engage in a continuous form of doctor worship. A trait of predatory females is that they perpetually seek to the physicians. This trait is encouraged by the matriarchal system, which is the foundation of the doctor cult. The system encourages a constant barrage of doctor-idol TV serials and soap operas. Q. How can I discern this trait in a female? A. If you say something against doctors in general, a predatory female will likely take it as a personal insult. Also, listen carefully for the possessive pronoun my. It will be my doctor this and my doctor that. The reverent intimacy they use with my doctor contrasts interestingly with the suppressed contempt of my husband. The Wrangler. Q. Why is the handling of a young filly so educational where predatory females are concerned? A. Young female horses exhibit many of the characteristics of the predatory female. If you charge wildly into the corral, she'll run away from you. If you ease into the corral, take your time, and bring something that interests her like food, she'll become curious and wander up to sniff you out. Sudden movements will spook her. She will cost you a lot of money. She is dangerous and can hurt you. She is beautiful, unpredictable, and fun to watch. She needs constant attention. She will get into trouble if ignored. In groups, they quickly establish a pecking order since they basically don't like each other. If you let her have her own way, she'll run all over you. If she doesn't respect you, she's useless. She is capable of foundering, eating herself to death. She will often behave irrationally and can do you both great injury. Marrying her would be a huge mistake. A lie is a lie is a lie. Q. Does a predatory female ever tell the truth? A. Only when it suits her acquisitive purposes. Where lies are concerned, the predatory female is a long ball hitter. Biblically, the first lie ever told was to a female. This female, Eve, was given personal instruction by Satan. She has never forgotten this, and her most effective technique today is the same used by Satan. After a steady progression of truths, she slips in the lie, or simply raises doubt and then suggests the lie. Scene evening in front of the fireplace. It's fun being together, isn't it? Aha. You love all this attention, don't you? Aha, think how much nicer it would be if we were married. Surely ye shall not die. Aside from histrionics, the truth is not in them. No honor among thieves. Q. Do predatory females like each other? A. Predatory females basically hate each other. Two con artists working the same street corner might be civil to accommodate business, but they'll never be sincere friends. So it is with predatory females. They are hustlers. They're working a peanut shell game and the competition is rugged. They will exchange information, spy on each other, socialize, or freeze each other out. It's the law of the jungle. No one knows a predatory female like another female, and they don't trust each other. This basic rule is worthy of consideration. The scene. Q is the embarrassing argument or public display, a characteristic of the predatory female. A. The predatory female is capable of turning on you in front of your friends without the slightest compunction. An embarrassing scene doesn't bother her in the least unless you are the one causing it. Screaming, scratching, hitting, loud profanity, throwing and breaking objects, and tossing drinks are some of her favorites. Curiously, some of the worst outbreaks are between sisters. The image of two cats fighting loudly enough to wake the neighborhood comes to mind. Tracks. Q2 predatory females have distinguishing living habits. A. Several, and here are some examples. 1. Look inside her car. Vehicles belonging to predatory females are often littered with cigarette butts, pop cans, shoes, clothing, wrappers, hangers, old makeup containers, and other trappings of the female. Predatory females are restless spirits. They move every 10 to 15 months in the acquisitive mode and may even live out of their cars for short periods. Further, if the car is a very expensive one, you should consider the possibility that she is a veteran predator and potentially dangerous. 2. A bedroom floor littered with the same type of debris described above, usually done while watching TV in bed, is another track of the predatory female. The debris may include cat or dog feces. 3. Predatory females are patently lazy. They'll drive around a parking lot, forever searching out a slot next to the entrance, to avoid walking a few extra feet. They put their suitcases on little carts when traveling, despite spending more effort wrestling the carts than simply carrying the suitcases. They pull plugs out by the cords, leave the lids off containers, and refuse to read instructions or manuals accompanying technical devices or equipment. Jaws. Q. How do predatory females compare with sharks? A. The similarities are alarming, and indeed, sharks are almost perfect soulmates to predatory females. Sharks have small brains but are masters at survival. They operate solely from instinct and are totally unpredictable. Their only purpose is self-preservation, and they're completely devoid of any capacity for love. They are infinitely treacherous and have no enemies except themselves. They eat each other, they operate in packs and prey on isolated victims. They are restless and constantly on the move. A man dealing with a predatory female is like a man in the water with a shark. The environment, the matriarchal society, belongs to the predator. A man needs luck or special training to survive. Conditions permitting, a shark isn't satisfied with just one chunk of the victim. It keeps coming back for more. Self-destruction. Q. Is there a pattern of self-destruction in the predatory female? A. Strangely, yes. The more predatory she becomes, the more likely she is to do herself in. In the advanced stages, she becomes her own worst enemy. Sign to watch for lying in the sun for years until she has skin like a Komodo dragon. The basic rule states that ultimately a predatory female will defecate in her own mess kit. This extraordinary occurrence has often saved a hapless male in the 11th hour. The nature of the beast. Q. Can a predatory female ever be reconditioned or reformed? A. Never. They are perpetually driven to stalk the earth, seeking whom they might devour, and you should never, repeat never, try to reform one. She'll only destroy you. Moreover, don't rebuke her for her actions. She is a slave to her predatory nature and can't help herself. Concentrate instead on appreciating her primal beauty, her hypnotic moves, dodging the bullet, and emerging unscathed from your relationship with her. Remember, she likes you for completely different reasons than you like her, and further, sex means nothing to her. She can get all she wants at the drop of a hat. An excellent reference, when discussing the nature of the beast, is Mildred Rogers from Mothems of Human Bondage. She is the quintessence of the predatory female's seductive, ruinous style. Of course, Philip Carey's attempts to rehabilitate her were completely fruitless. Despite my 30 years of research into the feminine soul, I have not yet been able to answer the great question that has never been answered: what does a woman want? Sigmund Freud.